purpose-driven supply chains. We want to find out more about that. And we're here today with Carlos Londono, who is Senior Vice President of Supply Chain at Chipotle Mexican Grill. Welcome, Carlos.
Thank you for having me.
So, Carlos, tell me, how can a company build a supply chain that aligns with its values?
Mm-hmm. So that's a great question. At Chipotle, we believe in cultivating a better world. And so our supply chain is really where it all starts. We have this great belief that food should be good for you, and everything that we do around food should be done with integrity. So we created this concept of food with integrity, where we align the values of the company with the great values that our customers put behind our food. And so what that means for our organization in supply chain is we have to have extremely high standards around the quality of our food and everything that we do. So as an example, our animal welfare protocols are the highest that you could aspire to in any food company around the world.
Tell me more about that. So that's about the animal welfare in food production?
That's correct. And so we take tremendous care in our animals and the way that we treat them. We align very closely with the highest standards of quality, the standards of ethics and compliance, and how we want to treat their animals in the most humane way possible. And so we have a variety of farms and commissaries around the world that help us understand what these best practices are and how we can better leverage our scale to do what's right for our communities and for our restaurants and for our communities and for our customers.
Great. So animals are one thing, people are another. How do you align with your values in terms of your employment structure?
Absolutely. So, a lot of people, you hear this a lot. You say, well, people are your greatest asset. Well, at Chipotle, people are for sure our greatest asset.
Right.
We employ north of 80,000 people around the US. And so if it weren't for the great work that our people at our restaurants do, it would not be possible for us to be as successful as we are. And so we take tremendous care in the way that we onboard our people, that we hire, we train them, and we teach them everything about our food and how wonderful of an experience we're offering. And so every time that somebody else comes in, we want them to really understand what a great experience they can provide for consumers.
All right. So is there an onboarding process that you could tell us a little bit about?
There is, absolutely. And so every time somebody gets hired, they go through extensive training. We love sharing with them the excitement around our food. We prepare everything fresh. So as an example, our guacamole is made fresh every day from fresh avocados. And so we will go through very rigorous training and help people understand what it is that makes our food so wonderful. And so with that, we then have a great process where we promote people. So if you become a restaurant manager, you can make six figures very, very quickly within a year or so, and you can continue to progress throughout our organization.
That's fantastic. Let's dig more into supply chain issues specifically, and transportation and logistics. There's a lot of waste in supply chains and transportation systems. Is that something that you're addressing?
Absolutely. We're always addressing waste in all areas of our supply chain, but especially in transportation and warehousing. So as an example, we've implemented this concept of RFID. RFID helps us get visibility to our supply chain and different nodes and what is happening in each one of those nodes, and help us make better decisions. So if, for example, we want to reduce the number of trucks that we have on the road, or we want to reduce the number of miles, this type of technology helps us understand where things are located, where they're coming from, and so on.
Right.
So it helps us create a much more sustainable environment for Chipotle.
So Carlos, can you tell me how you use technology to drive these efficiencies and support a value-driven supply chain?
So one of the key differentiators of Chipotle has been the use of technology. So since we started our transformation back in 2018, we've applied tremendous amount of resource, time to implement the greatest technologies that we can in supply chain. And so one of the things that we've done, as an example, is implemented visibility systems. So we have this great system that we use for traceability. And so we know exactly where things are in each one of the nodes of our supply chain. That way we can, if there were ever an issue, we can very quickly pinpoint where that issue may be and address it very quickly. If we have any inventory breaks or what have you, we can address them very, very quickly with technology. Now, As we went into coronavirus, Chipotle was positioned in a unique way
Yes.
because of the investment in technology that we had. So if you see our line, normally you experience what we call the front make line, which is the line that you use to get your normal burrito. Where what we had been doing back in 2017, 2018, is we were implementing what we call the digital make line, which is a second line inside a restaurant. So we hear restaurant companies talk about this concept of a dark kitchen, where we realize that we already have 3,000 restaurants. We can have 3,000 dark kitchens, right? And so we implemented that technology in the back, and then we coupled it with a very robust digital ordering system that we created ourselves.
Right.
And so when coronavirus hit, we immediately, as every other restaurant company in the world did, we saw a dip in restaurant sales, but immediately we saw a pickup in our digital channel.
Yes.
And so that year was actually an incredible year for us in digital, because we were actually growing faster than we were before coronavirus.
Of course,
right?
that makes sense. And it sounds like you were ready for it.
That's correct. And we were ready for it. Now, I think the challenge was now for our supply chain to continue to grow during that time, right? And so I love telling people that I was actually building factories and opening factories during coronavirus when everybody else was shutting them down, which was, we were trying to keep up with our growth.
Right.
And we did amazing. We had 99% service all throughout the 2 years of coronavirus, if you will. But it was because of this great use of technology and the unique position, this advantageous position that it gave us when we went into this crisis.
Right. Well, that brings me to another question, is how do you hang on to your values and make sure that they're baked into your supply chain when you're experiencing extraordinary growth?
Absolutely. So we never compromise on our values. So we would prefer to be out of a product than compromise on our values. So as an example, we don't allow any antibiotics or beta agonists or growth hormones in our supply chain.
Right.
And so if there was a situation where we were not able to meet those standards, we would prefer not to serve that protein or not to serve that food and give up the revenue. We were 100% willing to do that instead of serving something that is not up to our standards. And so occasionally we'll have certain places where we'll have inventory problems or things like that, which is very rare, but we are never willing to compromise on our principles and our beliefs of food with integrity.
Interesting. And what advice would you have for other companies who are looking to have more of a values-based supply chain?
What I would suggest is make sure that you stand by your values, that you understand what it is that your consumer base is interested in and appreciates. We are all about, of course, health and wellness and, again, cultivating a better world. And so what I would suggest to people is make sure that you invest in your supply chain appropriately, because some of these things are expensive, right? And so it's difficult to set up these hyper-specialized supply chains. And so you therefore need to have a very, very good idea of how you're going to invest, including and especially on people, right? And so your people are the secret weapon that is going to allow these hyper-specialized supply chains to function.
No food without integrity, without people.
That's correct. Exactly.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Carlos, for joining us today. We're delighted to have you here. We've been talking about purpose-driven supply chains with Carlos Londono from Chipotle Mexican Grill. Thank you for watching.